Okay, today we're going to unravel a case that honestly feels like it was pulled straight from a Hollywood script. We've got a grieving widow, a children's book about loss, and a shocking accusation that just turns the entire story completely on its head. This is the unbelievable case of Kouri Richins.
And this right here is the central paradox of the whole thing, the part that is so hard to wrap your head around. A woman channels her grief into a book to help her own sons, only to be accused of causing that grief in the first place. I mean, it's a plot twist so dark you'd think it was made up if it wasn't actually real life.
So, to really understand this case, we first have to look at the life that Kouri and Eric Richins built together in their small Utah town. Because on the surface, well, it looked like the American dream.
But right off the bat, this is where it gets incredibly complicated. How could two families see the exact same marriage in two completely different ways? Kouri's family saw a happy, thriving couple. Eric's family, on the other hand, heard an absolutely chilling warning from him. These two opposing views, they're at the very heart of this entire conflict.
And you know, from the outside looking in, they really did seem to have it all. He was successful with his stonemasonry business. She was this go-getter in the really competitive world of house flipping. They were raising 3 young sons, traveling the world, just building a life that pretty much anyone would envy.
All right, so let's get to the night that everything changed and see how that perfect image just completely shattered.
Okay, so let's walk through Kouri's version of events from that night. It starts pretty normally, with a celebration for a business deal. Then she does a normal parent thing, goes to sleep with her son who's having a nightmare. But it ends with this terrifying discovery in the middle of the night. In her telling, it's a tragic but pretty straightforward story of a wife finding her husband has passed away.
At first, everyone just assumed it was some kind of sudden, tragic medical event. I mean, the paramedics who arrived on the scene, they suspected a brain aneurysm, a natural cause. But then, the autopsy results came back, and the story changed dramatically. This was not a natural death. It was a poisoning, and the weapon was a massive overdose of illicit fentanyl. And listen, we are not talking about a small amount here. A spokesperson for Eric's family said the dose was so high that it was completely unsurvivable. And that finding, well, it turned a private tragedy into a full-blown criminal investigation. And this is where the story takes another totally surreal turn. While the police were quietly building a case against her, Kouri was very publicly processing her grief. She wrote a book to help her kids, she went on local TV to talk about loss. So you have to ask, was this a grieving widow trying to heal her family? Or was it the coldest act of misdirection imaginable?
But while Kouri was crafting this image of a grieving author, prosecutors were building a very, very different narrative.
So this brings us to the most crucial question for the prosecution: motive. I mean, if Kouri did this, what on earth was her reason?
Well, according to their case, the answer is as simple as it is brutal: money. They allege she was drowning in debt and saw Eric's death as her only way out.
Prosecutors paint this picture of a business empire that was actually built on really shaky ground. They claim she was nearly $2 million in the red. That is a kind of debt that can make people incredibly desperate.
And on the other side of that equation, a massive potential payout. Eric had multiple life insurance policies that added up to a total of around $3 million. Eric's family boils the entire motive down to this single, chilling calculation. They basically say that given the couple's prenup, she stood to gain a whole lot more from his death than from a divorce.
Now, this timeline is what the prosecution presents as their smoking gun for premeditation. They lay out this really sinister story, a first attempt on Valentine's Day that only makes Eric sick, a chilling request for something, quote, stronger, and then, finally, the fatal dose on March 4th.
And then, on top of all that, there's the digital trail. Prosecutors say Kouri's own phone reveals her intent, with Google searches that are, let's be honest, pretty hard to explain away. Questions about lethal doses, and, maybe most damning, how to erase the evidence.
But hold on. The defense argues this is all just circumstantial evidence, built on a really shaky foundation and a key witness that they say you simply can't trust.
See, the prosecution's star witness, the person who allegedly sold Kouri the fentanyl, is an associate we only know as CL. Pretty much the entire premeditation timeline hinges on what she says.
So the defense asks a very simple but very powerful question.
Can you really believe a word she says?
The defense pretty much argues that the prosecution's entire case rests on the word of someone they describe as completely untrustworthy. They point to her criminal record, her drug charges, and they suggest she had every reason to tell the police exactly what they wanted to hear. And they hammer home this one crucial point: there is zero physical evidence, no texts, no witnesses to back up her story.
So what about those Google searches? Well, the defense has a totally different explanation. They claim she wasn't planning a crime. She was panicking and reacting to an accusation, frantically trying to figure out why she was being targeted in the first place.
And that brings us to maybe the most bizarre piece of evidence in this whole thing: a letter found in her jail cell. To prosecutors, it is a clear-cut attempt to coach a witness, to tamper with testimony. But to Kouri, she says it's just research for a fictional book she was writing about her experience. I mean, two completely different interpretations of the exact same words.
So with these two starkly different realities being presented, the whole case is basically in a holding pattern, just waiting to go to trial.
So here's where things stand right now. Kouri is in jail, and she's been denied bail while she awaits her trial. A really bitter legal war is being fought over both the money and custody of the kids. And caught right in the middle of it all are 3 young boys who have lost their father, and for now at least, their mother.
And so, we're left with this case that's built on whispers and accusations, with no concrete proof of the moment the poison was delivered. It's a tragedy that has just torn a family apart, and it leaves us with a really unsettling question. When the line between a grieving author and an accused killer is this blurry, how can anyone, a jury or us, ever be certain they know the truth?